in the past 12 days. This morning was the coldest day. We were outside, you know. It was 40 something Fahrenheit. It's quite cold. You know, weather hot and cold, hot, cold. Tibetans say hot and cold, and then you catch cold. I think it's kind of true. If you come cold weather and if it's very hot, you shouldn't take your clothing off. You should still put clothing on, type of thing. It's, I think it's related to, I don't know how the body works, but you know, like when the basketball players, sports players, they jump and sweat so much. When they rest, immediately put jacket on. I think it's the same kind of thing. Body. You know, Marpa, Marpa, the great enlightened being and a translator who brought this precious Mahamudra lineage from India to Tibet. He went to India from old days 3 times from Tibet, you know. And the last trip he made he was quite old. And then his students thought maybe Marpa don't have to go now. And they thought he's slightly physically older and maybe no need to go to India now anymore. Then Marpa insisted on going to India to meet his guru. Well, actually, this is how it started. Milarepa was already his student at that time. I mean, yes, student, and Milarepa was meditating, practicing in the cave. And Milarepa had a very profound dream in his retreat. He was a very strict retreat. And the dream says that a Dakini appeared, very, angel-like being appeared in his dream and says, Milarepa, you have lots of precious teaching, like Mahamudras and so on. But you don't have a special Phowa teaching that will make you enlightened instantly, in a single instant, You don't have that. This is special Phowa. teaching, and you should get that in his dream. And Milarepa, when he woke up, then he is like, he was in very strict retreat. So then he came out of retreat and went to see his guru. And he bowed to Marpa and said, Marpa was like, hey, what happened? Why did you leave your retreat like that? And the Milarepa says, I don't know, I had this dream. And the Dakini said that I should get this teaching. And then you are my completely enlightened guru. And then I come here to tell you that. And I don't know whether it is prophecy or it is an obstacle for me. What I cannot tell. You're an enlightened guru. Please, clarify this for me. And Marpa sat and meditated a little bit. And then Marpa said, it's Dakini prophecy. Then Marpa brought a lot of teachings. He had some special Phowa teachings too in his collection of teachings that he looked. And then he realized he doesn't have this specific teaching, Phowa, that unique Phowa. It's called transfer consciousness. By the way, you all know what Phowa means, right? Phowa, right? Most of you know Phowa. Transfer consciousness, this is one of these unique teaching. There are many different kinds of Phowa, okay? Basic idea is transferring consciousness from ordinary body, like impure ordinary body, instantly to say, like in Vajradhara's heart, or into a Amitabha Buddha's pure land, transfer. And then with the profound technique and concentration, power of concentration and technique, and then Phowa visualization, you could transfer consciousness, really go. You could transfer consciousness into Amitabha Buddha Pure Land, for instance. This is a real possibility. Like that. And then, then there are many different kinds of Phowa. Like that. There's Amitabha Phowa, Buddha, Pure Land tradition Phowa exists. And then there's 6 doctors in Naropa Phowa, 6 doctors in Niguma Phowa. And then in our Shangpa tradition, our golden teaching tradition, Niguma Sukhasiddhi is a unique Phowa called red and white Dakini, special Phowa practice, and so on exists. But and then there are other kinds of Phowa. And then Chöd has a Phowa too, you see. One of the main things in Chöd, technique of Chöd practice is Phowa. Phowa transfer, and then the body is just a corpse. And then you sacrifice your body, give your body to offer generosity. It's a great generosity. You completely give it away. This very profound, skillful, mean technique, visualizations, and so on help you overcome your ego grasping. Body is a very powerful basis of your grasping your mind, And so Chöd Phowa is one very powerful way of overcoming ego grasping like that. Through Phowa and body is corpse. You don't hold on, and through visualization you give your body away. All different ways and things like that. And by the way, many of you, I think every one of you probably do know that Tibetans have a thing called sky burial, They call it sky burial, right? But actually, we don't call sky burial, okay? We call giving to the birds. And basically, it's not any bird, it's the vultures that come and eat birds. And then Tibetan condor, they eat dead body too. But condor is very interesting. They say vultures eat all the meat and everything else, and then all those bones, leftover bone, condors come and eat those bones. Very interesting. So these are the birds. So we call it giving body to the birds, right? Um, and this actually comes from Chöd tradition, Tibetan tradition of Chöd. It doesn't look good, from ordinary attachment point of view. It looks very gross, your body that you love so much, you ordinary people with so much attachment, you're dead, but even your body needs to be put on a $100,000 coffin in makeup. This actually shows a level of attachment, isn't it? Everybody would like that. Oh, I like that. But actually, it shows the profound samsaric attachment, how profound it is. The Tibetan style of body eating by death, it looks so gross, but that's the real pure thing. You see? It's exercising non-attachment. Yeah. Actually, most Tibetan people in the dead body give to birth. People who dying person, they have understanding. They're dead already. Your body feed to the bird, then you accumulate some merit. This is where the idea comes from. People say, just give my body to the birds. They will say that before they die. Sometimes they ask, what do you want us to do? You want us to regular, really underground burial or cremation, bird? Let's just give to the bird. Most people say that. I mean, they have understanding. You're dead, and you feed the birds, and birds will, and then you will benefit from that. It becomes useful like that. Yeah, yeah. Talking about attachment and so on. Ultimate thing is, in our teaching says, um, one saying is that you should die like a king of animal, like a lion alone in a cave. Don't care, just whatever happened. Or you should die like a dog. Meaning, if dog is dead, nobody cares. Meaning absolutely let it go. That's the meaning. And then a yogi who died like a dog is a superior yogi. Yeah, like that. I'm going everywhere from Phowa now. Okay, I will connect the dots. Yeah. Okay, like that. Um, yeah. It's technique. It's precious teaching, profound, skillful mean, technique, motivation, faith, devotion, concentration. Then you use this poor technique. You can really eject consciousness from body. And there are many stories of the practitioners who literally ejected their consciousness, and then they were not dead and dead. Many stories like that. And there was one very, very great Tibetan Phowa master, uh, and he was able to really, he was really great, great Phowa master, and he was able to transfer people's consciousness, into Pure Land. He really was able to do that. And then some, what's the word? Skeptic, yeah. Some skeptics like, really? Because most of the time Phowa is done when somebody dead already, But there were signs. Usually, authentic Phowa has signs. You have signs here because Phowa, you have to go through central channel. We have this nervous system, chakras, central channels, and then right up here, there's a little opening. It's called, in English, it's called Brahma's Aperture. Okay, and then consciousness eject from your heart area, and then it comes out of this. Then it could really go. And then usually authentic Phowa has a sign. Something happened, it's loosened, it's opened. Even a dead body, like this. It's usually right after somebody die, consciousness is still there in the body. So then it works, The Phowa is done, and consciousness came out of here and signed everything. Everybody's satisfied it really happened. But then, Tibet is a Buddhist country. But even though it's a Buddhist country, there are skeptics. So because there's an enormous claim by certain teacher and people, like maybe many people blindly believe. I'm not so sure about that. And the story was that this really happened. This is recorded history. That some people, some skeptics, pretend to be dead somewhere. And then somebody went to this great Phowa master and told him, "Oh, can you perform Phowa? Our guy died. Our so-and-so died, please." And the master actually was on horseback. It was horseback. Oh, he died? Oh, okay. Where? Over there, like some kind of like, how do you say, eyesight distant. Not so far away. And then the master says, "Okay, I don't need to, I'm just going to perform Phowa right here on horseback." He would sit horseback and he concentrate, visualize, concentrate, perform Phowa. And then he said, "That's it, I did the Phowa." Okay. Then he went. And then these skeptics don't believe Phowa happened. And they went back and see their friend. Friend's dead. Consciousness was really transferred. These are real authentic story, recorded authentic stories like that. So the point is, the technique really works, and so on. Then now back to this Milarepa and Marpa story. Was Milarepa's dream was that there's a unique Phowa, not just any Phowa, but Phowa, transfer Phowa from one human body to another dead human body. Okay? You have to, this particular Phowa is, you have to have another dead human body that consciousness is left already. And then if you transfer, then dead body becomes alive and live body becomes dead. This kind of a Phowa teaching existed in Buddhist tantric traditions in India. And Milarepa's dream was about this particular Phowa. And then Marpa, in all his collection of teaching, realized he doesn't have this unique teaching. And then Marpa sat and meditated a little bit. And then he says, "Oh, I promised last time when I left to India, I promised my guru that I will come back and see him again. So now I must go. I'm going to go to India." Then he wanted to go. And everybody thought Marpa was already quite old now, by then. Then they thought, oh, India is long distance travel, not like today, you have to walk and horseback and traveling is so difficult. And now, you're going to have a hard time. Please stay, don't travel and so on. And they gave several reasons. And one of the reasons they said, please don't travel India. We heard from Nepal, India, very hot weather. This is what I wanted to mean. Yeah. And then Tibetan mountains are so cold, in Nepal, in India, very hot weather, and you may get sick and something. And then Marpa counter all those requests by explaining each one of them how he's not afraid of each and every one of those difficulties in travel. And then when it's hot and cold weather, he says, I have spiritual practice called equalizing the weather. So therefore the hot weather doesn't bother me. Yeah, hot and cold, Yeah, hot weather is, he called equalizing, no, the term is not equalizing weather. Term is, literal term is equalizing element. He said, 4 elements, He said, I have a profound spiritual technique for equalizing all the elements, and I'll be fine, even the weather is hot in Nepal and India. Yeah, interesting. There's some kind of energy manipulation, huh? I have had also personal experiences, what Tibetans call a Nyam. It's some kind of like just experience. Experience of whether outside, whether hot or cold, didn't bother me anymore type of thing, I have had a Nyam like this. So somebody like Marpa actualize that, and he can have that anytime he want, I think, like that, But I didn't have that. I just had some profound experience where like whether hot, whether cold, didn't bother me, But it didn't stay like that all the time. Yeah. But you experience possibilities, like that, right? Yeah. So it's all because of cold weather and hot weather. Yeah. Actually, last night, this morning, early morning, I kind of woke up and I realized it's quite cold, Then I was in warm clothing, right? All of a sudden, I'm like, wow, Milarepa was just one cotton clade alone in the cave. Not only our altitude, this is like a little over 2,000 feet only. We're not even 3,000 feet, Milarepa was up in the mountain. Amazing, how you can sustain that. Mainly Tummo meditation, It really is. Milarepa was able to practice Tummo meditation technique. Such a hard work, huh? Milarepa himself, in his own songs, how do you say, he was, he proclaimed that he said, I work hard. Um, how should I say? I work very hard. Yeah, that's the word he was using, Milarepa Gomsenta. This is the terms like he himself used, I, Milarepa's ability to work hard and endure any pain and any hardship, and then fellow sentient beings, faith and devotion to me, he fearlessly declared, This is enlightened declaration. It's called, it's one of those qualities, a great bodhisattva, which is called 4 types of fearlessness. Qualities of 4 types of fearlessness. Only a great bodhisattva have, who's comparable to Buddha's quality. This thing called 4 types of fearlessness that they have, qualities that they have. That junior bodhisattvas don't have that, And so it's fearless declaration of himself. I, Milarepa, the yogi, who work hard and endures so much hardship, And you, fellow sentient beings, with true faith and devotion in me, you will all benefit from my enlightenment. And the essence of that benefit is, he says, it's my compassion. Milarepa has compassion. Those who are, any type of little faith and devotion, any true honor, respect arise in your heart, Milarepa. Wow, Milarepa must be so great. Any little feeling like that come, Milarepa's compassion enters in. See, he actually said that. Those who have faith and devotion in me, you will all benefit from my hard work. And the essence of that is my compassion. And in completely enlightened being have nothing but complete compassion. Like that. That's the definition of what absolute bodhicitta is. Yeah. If no compassion, not an enlightened being. That's the definition, okay? See? That's the real quality of enlightened being. You cannot listen to people talk, Talk, anybody can talk, especially very learned people can talk. Yeah. In my lifetime, the best talker I know was Osho, the Rajneesh. Nobody can out-talk him. He out-talks everybody and anybody. He's that good, You know why? He's a very sophisticated guy. And he was All India debate champion. That's why he's so good at talking. He can out-talk anybody because he was a debate champion. You see, he's like that. And he's truly knowledgeable. Yeah. If you didn't understand true Dharma, you might incline to believe that he's a real enlightened being. He has so much knowledge. And you have to come to conclusion like the fact that he knows so much, he must be enlightened. That's the only conclusion you can come to. But if you understand true Dharma, then there's a lot of crack in his speeches and his behavior. You can now see lacking compassion, lacking true respect, true enlightened qualities like that. Yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of politics, his own agenda, his own things. Yeah. If uh, his own personal agenda, uh, for his own personal agenda, if necessary, attack Buddha, he will even attack Buddha for his own personal agenda. You know, this is the dishonesty part. Because I've known him talk about Buddha in a way that, like, he know who Buddha is. You see, I can kind of tell. There are times he praised Buddha so much. He knows who Buddha is, but then, if it fits his own personal agenda, attack Buddha too. You see, that's complete dishonesty. Complete dishonesty. You see, someone like Buddha has so much quality. You don't disrespect like that. That's a real sin. Completely wrapped up in his ego. Yeah. The reason why I know a lot about Osho is when I was young, I was too as a Buddhist teacher, right? Came to West 40 years ago and wandering around this, that. And then some 40 years ago, Osho was very famous those days. And then I wanted to know, my English was not very good those days. I wanted to know why Osho is so famous. Why? And in those days, my English was not very good. And then my knowledge about all the things that Osho talking about is also not that good those days. But then I listen, I watch, I read some of his books, so and so on. Very interesting. Then, when you read again and again, someone like me who met an enlightened guru, who come from a real Buddhist background, at some point you get tired of him. There you go again, you know. You see, you read, his same ego trip comes again and again in his speeches. Then like, boy, there you go, You like this actually. Like but then what I wanted to say is those days I thought, you know, he's knowledgeable enough to know he's just ego trip and his own organization and agenda and this and that. I thought he's knowledgeable enough to know that he himself, in his private moment, that he's not an enlightened being. I thought that. I sincerely thought that. He's knowledgeable enough to know he's not Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. He's just very, very learned. That's it. Then that was that. Then at some point, we had, again, conversation like this, Osho, this, that. And then somebody else that I was talking to was telling me that, is that possible that Osho believed that he was enlightened? Osho himself actually believed that he is enlightened. And my immediate response is no, not possible. He's knowledgeable enough to know that he's not enlightened. My immediate response was that. But then this question made me think, what if Osho really believed that he's enlightened? Then I realized all of a sudden, like, yeah, there's possibility. Your ego can play all kinds of game onto yourself that you think you're so special. He could convince himself that he knows so much and he's so knowledgeable and everybody listen to him. Yeah, I'm enlightened. His ego, very good possibility, convince himself that he's enlightened when he's not. So that's one other thing that I thought. Yeah. I mentioned this before too, but people asking, then what was his problem? And this is what I believe his problem is. I know his life well enough to know his background and everything. He never met an enlightened guru. You see, he never met a true enlightened guru. This is where his problem is. He has so much knowledge, but he never met an authentic enlightened guru from enlightened lineage. This is the problem, see? He was almost there. I feel really bad, Osho thing. He's almost there. Almost. And then he didn't make it. Yeah. I usually explain Osho's story, like how Osho almost at the threshold of an enlightened citadel. And then he was there and he could see inside. He didn't walk himself in. He could see everything and he's telling everybody else how inside is. Because he could see, but he never walked himself in. This is how I explain. And I think this explanation is very much to what actually really happened, I think. So bad, huh? Most of people so far away from that. And he was right there. He could have walked in. He didn't meet Guru. And then therefore he didn't have, how do you say, kind of opportunity to walk inside. Yes? You have to retranslate. Oh, I didn't finish the story. I should tell you. Complete the story. Marpa went to India, got the Phowa teaching, then came back. Then Marpa realized Marpa realized it was not. This is a very unique teaching. Only one teacher can give only to one student only. It's not teaching for everybody. It's just one student only. And then Marpa realized this particular teaching has no benefit to the Tibetans, and it will not particularly any particular beneficial to Milarepa either, in a bigger picture. So Marpa did not give that teaching when he came back to Milarepa. And he gave that particular teaching to his son. That's what the story is. After his son died, son's consciousness transferred into a pigeon and had to go back to India. That teaching didn't have a karma to survive in Tibet. So he went back to India. Yeah, like that. Very interesting. It's just all some kind of unique thing. One, two hand. Yes? Marpa's son went back to India. Yes? What?
Did his consciousness transfer from a pigeon to a young boy?
That's right. In India. India, yeah. Yeah, the story was Marpa's son died, young son. Very interesting. Marpa had seven son. And his oldest son was Dorde. Dorde was riding horse, and then there was some kind of Mara influence. Can you believe Mara is always trying to do something to create problems. And he was influenced, and the horse ran. And then Marpa's son fell. And his feet was stuck in, what do you call it, yoke or whatever, horse, saddle. No, not saddle, what do you call it? Foot place. Huh? What?
It's called a stirrup.
Yeah, he was stuck there and he was dragged and he hit horse run. And then Marpa's son's head was hit on the rock and all kinds of things, and then finally died. And then he was, brought back and kept, and then Marpa meditated and looked and realized that his son has this Phowa teaching, and there's no benefit of Tibet. And he says his karma is, again, benefit back in India. And then son was, asked to go back. And then now that, consciousness had to be transferred from son who's almost dying to another dead body, And the story was, anybody died in that area? Look, they couldn't find anybody who died, and recently died, somebody, dead body. And there was one old woman dead body, and somebody found a pigeon dead body. That was it. This old woman dead body. And then son was asked, and they realized the old woman's dead body is not useful. And pigeon dead body will be more beneficial. I mean, more useful in traveling. And then son transfer his consciousness from his human body into pigeon. And everybody was present, looked, and then son died, and pigeon came back to life. Very, very incredible story. And then Marpa directed pigeon to go and fly to India, and it went towards India. Flew. And then it got lost. Interesting, It came back. And then Marpa realized it got lost and it had a little problem and so on. Then Marpa again helped redirect it. And it was very tired. Wings were like tired. And then it kept few days, kept trying to recover, its body and energy and everything. And then finally Marpa directed and go back. And then he could see this one particular area you go, and at that precise moment, there would be a dead body of a young boy in a cemetery in India somewhere. Young boy. And then pigeon flew, and then pigeon flew in, and there was like in the cemetery, deceased people, a dead body, and people are there, and then pigeon flew, and then pigeon fell and died, and the boy came back to life. Everybody was a little bit scared initially what happened. And then the boy explained, I'm not zombie. Zombie is dead body coming back to life, right? I'm not zombie. I'm a product of a transfer of consciousness. And then everybody looked down and looked like no need to be fearful. And then he explained. And then the parent whose child had died, and then they were so happy their child was back to life, And then they realized it's not their child, physically looked like their child, but this child, the particular boy is even more special than their child, and so on. And then they raised it, and two became a great spiritual guru, like that story. Like that. And then who met that guru was Rechungpa met the guru, this guru. His Milarepa student Rechungpa went to India. In one of his trip to India, Rechungpa met this guru. And this guru's name was called Tipupa. Yeah, what's the name? Okay, we have to start now.